You ready?
Yes.
You may start.
Have you ever heard of someone who is obsessing over saving energy and water? Well, the dad in the Gospel of the Utilities, according to Dad, sure did. He is constantly telling the people in the family to turn off the water spigots in the bathroom and the lights in the rooms when you're not using it. And much more. Well, if you haven't heard of anything like that, you will now, as I present to you the Gospel of the Utilities, according to Dad. From the kitchen, the voice was barely audible. "It's coming from the living room," said one son. We all froze like a tableau. "Well, excuse me. I didn't realize there was someone still in this room. Silly me. I was ready to turn the lights out. Here, let me turn on a few more lights," the voice continued. "I can afford it. I'm independently wealthy, you know." I smiled knowingly. It's Dad, the Prince of Darkness, making a point. I said. "Don't tell me," said one son. "Let me guess. Dad is standing in an empty living room, talking to himself to let us know we didn't turn off the lights again when we left the room." The other son shook his head. Some things never change. The speech was a staple. For 30 years, Dad had dedicated his life to flipping off lights in rooms with no one in them, turning off water spigots in the bathroom, and throwing his body over the meter in an effort to stop dials from spinning. His sermons on saving money and energy fell on deaf ears. His commandments on misuse lay like broken stone tablets amidst the wet towels and the melting soap. For more than 30 years, he had valiantly fought apathy, alone and unheeded. His Gospel of Utilities never got the respect he had hoped for. "Thou shalt flush, especially if thou is 15 years old and has the use of both arms. Thou shalt hang up the phone when thou hast been on it enough for the rates to change. Thou shalt not stand in front of the refrigerator door waiting for something to dance. Thou shalt not covet the rest of the family's hot water. Thou shalt honor thy mother and father's thermostat and keep it on normal. Thou shalt remember last month's electricity bill and rejoice in darkness." There were other commandments, but these were the ones written in stone. He began teaching them when the children were old enough to respond to the word no. If you really wanted to see old Dad lose it, you should have seen him walk into the kitchen and discover 3 kids with both doors of the refrigerator flung open while the hairs in their noses froze up. He had a rule for that, too. He came up with an idea he used on our safety deposit box. Every time he would take out a document for our taxes, he would record it on a little sheet of paper. When he returned an insurance policy or our passports, he would write it down. In one glance, he knew what was in and what was out of the safety deposit box. He figured it should work for our refrigerator, so he posted the contents on the refrigerator door and asked the family to mark any withdrawals or additions on the sheet. A cabbage roll had 7 ins and outs, signifying no one knew what it was until he bit into it. Some smart aleck withdrew 35 cherries and 2 peaches, and returned 35 cherry seeds and 2 peach pits for inventory. A box of baking soda was withdrawn and returned with a note that said, "Needs work." Probably the most pathetic entry listed under withdrawals was ice cubes with a note that said, "Would have returned same, but don't know how to make them? He tried so hard. He used to line the children in front of the door and said, "Today we're going to learn how to speak thermostat. When your room is cold, what do you do?" One of the boys came forward and hiked the thermostat up to 80 degrees. "You have the idea, but you need a little fine-tuning," said his father. "When your room is too hot, as it will, what do you do?" "Open a window," yawned our daughter. Finally, one day, one of them said, "Wait a minute. Are you telling us that the colder it gets outside, the harder the furnace has to work to keep it warm inside? And that every time it clicks on, it costs money?" Dad nodded excitedly. Then you should have thought of that before you had 3 children," he said. Despite his lectures on how a light switch works, we still have only the lighthouse offering a perpetual beacon and sailors adrift in the Arizona desert. I remember the night we arrived home to find 32 lights burning. Dad rousted the family out of bed and ordered them to the dining room, where he shuffled through a stack of papers and figures. "Did you know," he asked, "that it costs each of us $135 a year to take a hot bath, and that the washer costs $350 a year to operate? Are you all suggesting that we bathe together in the soap cycle of the washing machine?" "I am suggesting that we take a good look about what is going on around here. A shower is a lot cheaper and uses less water." They thanked him for sharing and got up to leave. "Sit," he ordered. "A waterbed costs $4.35 a year to heat, while an electric blanket costs only $2.20. "Great," said our son. "Why don't we all just stand under a hairdryer to keep warm? That only costs $1.75 a year." "For a nickel more," said one son, "we could use the vacuum sweeper to suck the dirt off." He stomped off in defeat. "Dad has a point," I said. "After all, he pays the bills, and all he gets back for it is waste. From here on in, we should stop and think about how much it costs in electricity before we turn on a single appliance." When my dad came to breakfast, he said, "Where's the coffee?" "I made it in the popcorn popper," said the daughter. "It only costs 40 cents a year to run, while the electric coffee maker costs $5.40. One son didn't shave because it cost 40 cents a year. The other son was late for work because the clock, $1.03, was unplugged, and a strange smell was coming from the freezer because it cost $109.45 a year to keep it plugged in. I offered him a piece of solar toast from the windowsill, but he just kept walking toward the door. It was rather predictable that he would end up talking to himself.